Good evening. I was going to do a live, but I'm kind of wiped out. Um, the Dodger game starts in about 15 minutes, and I want to listen to that. It's been a long day, a lot of stress from trying to get back into the groove of work after being my surgery and then taking care of my body because I have lymphedema. My wife dealing with her chemo and couldn't be there with her, and that kind of because I had an appointment at the same time. And then just kind of listening and absorbing the news today and watching the United States military get picked apart by incompetency of Heskett and Trump, where sailors are literally trying to commit suicide because they've been on the same boat for close to a year and they're not giving them any kind of supplies. And when they talk about their mental state, the officers and the health team is telling them to basically go fuck yourself. Trump has succeeded in turning the United States military into the Russian military, where they don't consider soldiers parts of the military, they consider them pieces that can be replaced. Okay, it's cruelty for cruelty's sake and a waste of our money because that's why they want to spend all this money on nothing, on hardware, but not on people. People don't matter to these people, to them. Because I was reading through the the New York Times. They did an article about the transgender driver's license law in Kansas, which basically, if you're a transgender person, but you were born male or born female, you cannot have your changed sex on your license. You have to have your birth sex. And they're forcing these people to get everything changed and how it affects them psychologically. Because to white Republicans or Republicans in general, or basically evangelicals, ladies and gentlemen, let's be blunt, and I'm going to say this. And I wish this would get wider speak, but I can't get it because people won't listen to me. We have fallen under a fucking theocracy through evangelicals, mega churches, and Christian nationalism we see every day that's taken over the Republican Party. They don't give a fuck about Christianity. They only care about power. Trump gives them power. Trump is an adulterer. Trump is everything you can that violated probably every fucking 10 commandment. But he gives them what they want, power. They can be selected on the words of Jesus Christ. They can worship Christ but not do his bidding. Nope. None of it matters. Kindness to the stranger, get the fuck out. That's why I support ICE. Look out for the poor. Fuck them. We don't need that. Let's get rid of Medicare and Medicaid. Hope they all starve. They deserve what they get. Look out for your neighbors. Fuck them transgender people. We need someone to blame my problems on. I can't get a job. I don't have this. I don't have that. It's that fucking Mexican's problem. He did this to me. The transgender person did this to me. Blah, blah did this to me. Did this to me. They did this to me. And even after these motherfuckers get everything they want, they still cry that they did this to me. Now it's the Muslims did this to me. You've seen that disaster in Dallas, Fort Worth? All they want is to build a mosque. And this was a mega church with a priest or pastor ripping people off every fucking Sunday, not contributing back to the economy, but to keep it in their pockets. Remember, The Righteous Gemstones on HBO? That's a fucking documentary. Truth. Okay? No, they've got it because they're afraid that they're going to spread Sharia law, blah, blah. It's a fucking religion protected under the First Amendment. And from what I understand, except for radicalized religion, radicalized versions of Islam, Islam is a fine religion that takes care of its own and takes care of those around them. Every religion can be radicalized. Look at what's going on in Israel, Judaism. Look what goes on with Christianity, evangelicals, Buddhism, Hinduism. All of it can be violent and terror and used for terror and justification of hurting others. But you guys are, this is the new way, because the only way Republicans are going to win in November is if they cheat or they basically go to the hate card, which they're playing right now. Which brings me back to the article in the New York Times, because it shows these people as people and how it's affecting them, how they can, sometimes they drive. One person got stopped after switching had their license stopped, and the cop says, "You don't look like this." They says, "Male, you're female." She tried to explain it, and ended up getting a ticket for having a false license. See, which brought to another point that fascism uses stringent laws against certain people, while the rest people who they don't target can go around you and have a world-based society that favors them. Okay, it's a duality. It's in the article where they take laws and do it arbitrarily against people they want to be forced to leave or to persecute. I.e., if you get stopped as a white person by a cop now, or federal or CP or Border Patrol, they won't question your race. You still have a Fourth Amendment. You still have, your Fifth Amendment. You still have your Eighth Amendment. If I get stopped by ICE, I'm fucked. Because if they don't believe I'm an American citizen, if they don't take my license, I have no due process. That's what Brent Kavanaugh gave us. Kavanaugh stops. See? Laws used arbitrarily against people they want to get rid of or to persecute or don't agree with the government, as opposed to those people just get along. And it's just, the United States is worse because, remember, they take regular laws and arbitrarily use them against people of color, blacks, females. You see what I'm saying? It is an unbelievable duality that we were trying to get around, but now has settled back in. Because you have to understand, you have to wonder, in Mississippi, there's a fucking rash of black people hanging themselves from trees. You're telling me they're all suicides? And you're telling me that with all the flock cameras that can, let cops run down their ex-girlfriends, there's no evidence that pop up to see what happened and why? Again, duality. And this is what we've got. Even if we get rid of the Trump regime and all that, that duality still exists. That racism is still deep in the United States. It's like a fucking cyst. Right? You can drain the cyst, but if you don't get the root out, it's going to regrow. And we haven't got the root out. It still sits there. White, disgusting, rebuilding every time, ever after a while, rebuilding its infection. So until we figure out a way to get to the bottom of it, to cut out that, we're going to remain as we are. Angry, depressed, pissed off. And those who can get away with stuff will, and those who can't will suffer at the hands of others. That's the bottom line. You guys have a good night.